Is this the best Argentina team ever? That's right. We got to start with this one. Before we break this down, let's just do a quick around the table. Yes or no, best Argentina of all time. Hope everybody has the same screen orientation as me. Connor, why don't you go first, then we'll go to Roberto, Martin, and then me.
And we're not elaborating on this, right? We're just stating.
We are, but let's just do quick. I want to see where we stand as a panel.
Yes. And it's beyond reproach.
Okay, Roberto?
100% yes.
Martin?
Yes.
There's some hesitancy there. Yo, I think we're going clean sweep yes.
Wow.
For the best Argentina of all time. Okay, so now I'll play the bad guy here and some devil's advocate. What is the argument against this being the best Argentina team? What are the arguments that you guys typically see online or things that you yourselves considered when kind of weighing this up? I would imagine one is like star power, right? They don't have like the big names. I feel like that's something that people would say to detract from the current Argentina squad.
I'll go for the Argentine old head argument. There's no Maradona.
Okay.
There's no Maradona.
It seems like from what I can find from other South Americans that like 86 to 90 team is sometimes considered the best team ever. The team that also won a Mundial.
You can even go further, 94, right? Because that's a Mundial and then a final. And then 94, I mean, if Maradona doesn't get caught for a little bit of the cocaina, they're heading for the final. It's pretty much a unanimous decision there, right? They were unplayable until he left. And then they gave a good 45 minutes and we're out against Romania, I think.
I'll just kind of give my reasoning for why I went yes. And if you guys want to elaborate on top of this, please do. This generation of Argentina, they have 4 trophies, 2 Copa Americas, 1 World Cup, Finalissima. If you look at World Cup qualifying, which I'm curious how much people factor in Copa versus World Cup versus qualifying, like what percentage of each goes into this is the best Argentina of all time. But this current Argentina team in this cycle, they're on 31 points right now. They're on pace for 40 in this qualifying window. This same generation, 2022, had 39 points at the end of the cycle, and maybe most importantly, didn't lose a single game. And so 2022 is definitely still this gen. I would say that the start of this generation was maybe 2019, 2020, if you want to say something along those lines. So I'm going to go through Argentina qualifying cycle in the points since we had this format. 2026 currently on pace for 40. 2022, 39 points. 2018, 28 points. 2014, 32. 2010, 28 points. 2006, 34 points. 2002, this is the big one, 43 points. They had one loss that was like Batistuta, Crespo, Walter Samuel, pretty damn good team. And then 1998, they had 30 points. So 2 of the 3 best ever qualifying campaigns for Argentina could happen should this Argentina team continue current form. And you got, I think, a little bit of other intangibles you want to point to, but anything else you guys want to add for why this is the best Argentina team of all time? Should we give extra credit for how they beat Italy in the Finalissima, for example, or the game that just happened against Brazil, like the worst defeat in the history of the rivalry? Does anything like that factor into you guys, or is it simply they have X amount of trophies?
I think, going into that, and, I want to put in my historical head in a bit, because obviously the game has changed so much since 78 and 86, and even the teams in the 90s that won those trophies. So, circumstances have changed. Players have gotten better. The fact that the national teams, you have all the best players playing in Europe or, playing for the best teams in the world, wasn't like that back then. So you can argue, and maybe the old heads might think, oh, but, the opposition was very similar. So therefore, it made it much more harder. No, I think it's more harder now because everyone is playing everywhere and, players are better, they're stronger, they're faster. There's never been a better circumstance to ever win a trophy. And, it's not just the World Cup. It could be any international trophy, Copa America, Finalissima, whatever. So I think there is that sort of factor as well. And yeah, I think, people are going to, records always have to be broken. All these things have to always change. People maybe think that there might come a time that maybe this team will get surpassed by another team that wins multiple trophies or whatnot. But I don't know. I just feel like when you look at the circumstances of how Argentina have been able to do it, especially against the opposition that they play, like Brazil, like France and Italy and whatnot, good teams. And to do that, I think, it gives all the merit of it being the best Argentina side of all time.
Yeah, I think there are two arguments. There's like the status and the legendary sort of nature that comes with a team, right? The hype that surrounds them. But then you can also look at individual talent and names. And I think this team has the legendary status, right? 86 is probably the closest team that came to that, or the closest another team can come to that. 78 is obviously, very impressive. Everybody loves it. But, everybody says the corruption. And I mean, you can name maybe 2 players on that team. And you could say the same about the 86 team. The player depth was not insane. I mean, everybody talks about how Maradona's leadership led those guys straight there. And I mean, you don't even see other household names like Canigia or Batistuta come until later when we're looking at a Copa America, and not a World Cup, right? The biggest competition that we have this current team for talent pool is in 2010 under Maradona. And that's when you're seeing, man, I had the list pulled up here, but that's when you're seeing the Walter Samuels. That's when you're seeing Otamendi. That's when you're seeing Di Maria. That is when you're seeing Agüero, Tevez, De Michelis, like all these names. And these guys were playing at top teams. I'm talking starters for Inter, Bayern Munich, all over the place, right? But the difference is this team did it. And the other team, I understand, was hamstrung incredibly by Diego Maradona as coach. The guy thinks about football differently. You can't communicate that idea to anybody. I mean, the closest he probably got was Messi, Can
I jump in?
Yeah.
I think what you're getting at is what I see a lot, where people confuse best with most talented. Because if you want to say, is this the most talented Argentina team of all time? I'm still going to say they're top 3 100%. Do they have the sexy names and the sexy appeal of even 2010, 2014 Argentina? Maybe not, because at that time you had Sergio Agüero, you had Messi, you had Higuain. All of them were absolutely shredding it up in their respective leagues. But it's not like this current team doesn't have Julian Alvarez, who's a top 3 player in La Liga this season. It's not like this current team doesn't have Lautaro, who's been the best player in Serie A for 3 years, right? But I don't know. It's like these guys, these new strikers for Argentina, especially Lautaro, they don't have the brand that like Agüero had. They don't have the brand of a Higuain, and even a brand of like a Mascherano. I'm not sure who's got the Mascherano brand in this team. You kind of got a bunch of like
De Paul.
Yeah. Well, De Paul's my favorite player. I'm gonna say it. Argentina, this current midfield, there's some thugs in there. Like, they're gonna beat your ass. They're gonna make the game ugly. But guess what? Every single one of those guys knows how to play together. But they don't have the star power. They don't have a guy where you point to them and you're like, Enzo Fernandez is the best midfielder in the Prem. They do not have those names. And Messi's not at his peak powers anymore. So people look at this and dude, we got clowned in a video we did like a year ago, maybe even more than that. Where I think we said if Argentina win the next Copa America, it's the best team ever. It's the best team they ever had. And people were like, hey, you smoking the ganj. And I think that's because they don't have these hallmark names, right? Like, you don't have the stars, but that don't mean the movie. Just because you throw a bunch of stars in a movie, like Bullet Train, I'm sorry if anybody watching likes that movie. Great cast. Not a good movie. I don't care that Brad Pitt's in it, all right? It just ain't it. So I think for some people, they really, really struggle to differentiate between best and talent.
And I completely agree. That's why I'm saying it's beyond reproach. And that's why I have to acknowledge that counter argument, because that's really the only thing, right? This team has 4 trophies. We've been smacking around Europe. I mean, the only people that we haven't taken down are Germany and England. Those are the last 2 infinity stones that we need, and then we've completed football. I don't know what else.
And
to
God willing,
say.
you get them in 2026.
God, I don't want to talk about that because I'll
Spain.
throw up on stream, and Spain. But we don't got beef
Oh,
with
that's
Spain
the
like
one.
that, you know? Like
You got Spain soon,
selfishly.
though. You got Spain soon, though. So you got that finalissima against
Soon.
Spain. That's gonna be a
Ooh.
Exactly. I think that is the last metric, and then they are solidly in the top 5. If God willing, knock on wood, Anulo Mufa, we win against Spain, you put us in top 3 international teams of all time, right? And I don't think that's I don't think that there's an argument against it, right?
yeah.
No.
And
But when I'm
no.
talking about an Argentina, right, historically is a breeding ground for superstars. 2010 is the closest that you can come to arguing that, okay, maybe they were more talented. But outside of that, we've got the pedigree. We've got the legendary moments. I mean, a Copa America against Brazil, this legendary finish against Brazil in qualifiers. We beat the Netherlands on pens again. We beat Croatia, who knocked out Brazil with Neymar. We did it all. It's done. Check, check, check. Better than any team that's done it before. Maybe it was more exciting with Maradona, and I get that. Believe me, as a kid who didn't see a trophy until 3 years ago, I get it. I get it. That is locked into my mind too. But 3 trophies later, I'm sold.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting just, making the big comparison. And that's going to happen all the time. They're going to make the comparisons with Spain. They're going to make the comparisons with Brazil 70 because they always said, oh, that's the greatest team of all time. So, those sort of arguments will always come. And, I think in a generation that is able to see that because, there's not any people that on social media said, oh, I saw Brazil 70 or I saw, well, maybe Brazil 2006. That might be a bit much, but, there's going to make those comparisons. And I think that's going to really, make the argument of Argentina being this current Argentina team being one of the greatest of all time. If they win another World Cup on top of everything they've done, I don't see how you can't put them as the greatest.
No, it's a wrap then if they win the
I
next
agree.
World Cup.
I think so. I agree.
What if they don't win the next World Cup, but they win the next Copa America? They three-peat the Copa.
And if they win against Spain against the finalissima, there's still the argument.
I think their status is there. Like Connor
Yeah.
said, I think top 3, top 5 at worst greatest international teams of all time. That's going to change. That's not going to change no matter what happens in the World Cup or even the next Copa America. So their status is secure no matter what.
I definitely agree that it's between the Maradona team that had the superstars, the names, and right now. But at the end of the day, football is 11v11, and this team, if you can get over 100% chemistry, they have it. It's insane what they've been doing, and will continue to do because I think Messi will play the finalissima, will play the next World Cup. I think by the World Cup he could be retiring, but Argentina, they have a young squad and people coming up like Garnacho, who's only 20 years old. They're looking good. They're looking good.
Yeah. I think it's fair to say that, I'll put it like this. If they win the next World Cup, I think they're probably the best team ever. If they win the next World Cup again. Are you kidding me? So you could potentially have 2 finalissimas, 2 Copa Americas, and 2 World Cups.
In
Like,
5
I'm sorry,
years.
dude. I'm sorry. What else are we gonna say?
Yeah,
And now, and maybe the best part of that is they're gonna get a couple of those, at least 2 of them, without prime Messi. They didn't even have to lean back on this just footballing god to carry them. I think they have to be. Who's their main competition? Prime Brazil and
France.
2010 Spain, maybe. Yeah, early 2000s France. You want to go 2000
Netherlands.
or 19?
Yeah, you got Spain. You got.
Dude, I'm sorry. You cannot compare Netherlands to this Argentina team. That's disrespectful to Argentina.
I think it's
The
I think it's
80s,
Spain.
Netherlands 80s.
Yeah, I think it also goes more into.
Disrespectful.
Well, I think as well, like more so than I agree, the trophies are one, but there's also going to be this sort of argument about how they played, and this whole stylistic sort of thing. That's a bigger argument in itself. But No,
That's
That's a
true.
great point.
that's going to be a big factor too, because one can say, "Oh, you've won all these trophies," which again, I think that should be absolutely a part of how great you manage a team. But then there's going to be all those like philosophical guys, all those like pseudo technicals and all that kind of stuff. It's like, well, but they didn't do this. The passing levels are this. The levels of the changing the way of they type thing. It's not Guardiola. It's not Mourinho. It's not
Yeah.
like that. Again, that's a whole different argument itself. But I'm sure there's going to be some philosophical people that are going to say like, wait a minute, this Argentina team is not playing beautiful, which prior to what many people say, I think they play very good football, regardless of whatever anyone says.
Then I think in that case you just say Argentina do not play the prettiest football of all time, and you move on. Right?
Yeah,
Best
they
team of
get
all time
wins.
doesn't mean that you play the most beautiful, elegant, triangle passing football that we've ever seen. It means these guys were unstoppable. It means nobody could beat these guys. And
Exactly.
they formed a dynasty. Right? This whole like, well, their XG per game was lower than 1.6, and we consider that here at our footballing institute to be the metric for elite football teams. Piss off. I'm sorry. That's sprinkles on a
Exactly.
cake.
It's 3
It
points.
doesn't
Who
matter.
can beat them? Who can beat them? No one's has beat them
Yes.
yet.
I think that's why we all like football, is because the team that's often trying to play prettier loses quite often, like all the time, right? And then the other team goes down, scores the corner kick, and the one team's looking around like, how did we lose that game? Well, you didn't score. You weren't good enough. All right, I'm going to be a hater right now. You guys just push back on everything I say. The last Copa America was too easy. Their path was weak. They didn't play a team till Colombia in the final.
I think Ecuador blew it in PKs. We could have beat them. But yeah, GG's.
I think it's more of the case of they were just better than everyone. So who on earth was going to stop them?
Ecuador and PKs. And if that,
Could have
and
been,
if
yeah.
Enner
What
scored
could have
that
been,
PK,
dude?
No,
Enner
listen,
scored his PK.
Martin's got an excellent point here. Yeah, Ecuador took us to penalties, and it is what it is. The last team that you want to get in a penalty shootout is probably what, Brazil with Allison, and
Nah,
I mean
Argentina.
probably
with
even worse,
Dibu.
Argentina. We
Argentina
we
would
have
be
the
number
pedigree.
one.
We have the pedigree, and I mean, dude, go ask the Netherlands. Go ask the Netherlands. I think about them actively. One of the happiest moments of my life is when we sink when Romero blocks the last PK against the Netherlands and sends us to the finals back in 2014. I was jumping up and down. I haven't seen my grandfather move like that ever in my life. The man was hooting and hollering like a redneck. He's Argentine. I don't know where he got that. He had a cowboy hat in his hand, bottle of Jim Beam.
He's been living in Texas for too long.
Yeah.
That's where he got it from.
He's in
Hell
too
yeah.
deep, dude. But I remember that moment, like Netherlands, two World Cups out of 3. You lose to Argentina on pens.
Ouch.
Ouch, brother. Ouch. It just is what it is, though. The pens, I mean, maybe that's why everybody hates pens, and I absolutely love them because we do have this history of winning them. But dude, even if you
I
could
think it's
argue,
just me.
it's just you.
I'm the pen hater.
You're the
I'm the
hater
pen
on this
hater.
one.
Yeah.
Look, even if you
yeah.
want to say that Argentina had an easy path to the final, we still almost lost to Ecuador. I don't care who you are. If you get to a penalty shootout, you almost lost the game. No matter what, you could win. You could clean sweep the pens. Almost loss. Almost a loss. No matter what.
You also
right?
won 120 minutes against Colombia as well.
Mm-hmm.